What is up? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Brand+Shred. So excited to have Caton Del Rosario hanging out with me today. Caton has been one of those guys when I first met him. Like, I just knew Caton when we first met. I knew we were going to be friends, number one, but I'm like, dude, this is one of those guys who has the vision, who has the drive, who has the passion to just absolutely crush the mortgage industry. And what I love most, and we'll talk about here in a second, but you've built this brand, the Millennial Mortgage Pro, which you and I are both millennials. We're on the younger side of this generation, of this industry. I'm far on the younger side, but we continue to have so much fun with it, with producing content. You've done just this incredible job building a brand. And when I'm like, hey, I've got to have Caton on the show with me talking about how he's done it. Because dude, I honestly can say this. I don't know if there's a better example of somebody who's been able to juggle building a brand, building a mortgage company, and just continuing to thrive in the way that you have. So I'm so excited to have you. I appreciate you taking some time to hang out with me today.
Thanks, man. Wow, that's an intro. I'm gonna have to steal some of those bits for when I give my own intro for like other shows. So I really appreciate that, man.
Dude, we're gonna cut it. We're gonna even give it to you. But so let's talk about this. Let's talk about how did you get your start in the industry? Like I said, you're young. You relatively, if you can say, new to the industry, but you've been doing this for a while now. But how did you get your start in the industry?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been doing this for 6 years, which I mean is minuscule to some other people, but a little while, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you the Cliff Notes version because it's a little boring. Got my start at just a normal kind of refi call center. Paid my dues there. Left there after a while, went independent. At a local mortgage brokerage. That's when I started dipping my foot into more of like the purchase market. And around that time, I discovered a guy by Gary V. And as we all eventually just discovered him,
that guy, right?
Who's that guy? But we all just stumble upon him at some point in our life when we're meant to.
Yep.
And his messaging of creating a brand really resonated with me. Building a brand outside of the company that you work for, because at the end of the day, people still want to work with people, regardless of the brand. That's why Nike has their big influencers like Jordan and LeBron and Kobe and such.
Yeah.
So that really resonated with me, and that's when I really decided to kind of just go all in on trying to figure out what that brand was, and building it really. And obviously, as you kind of touched on, built my brand, built my mortgage business, started a mortgage company 2.5 years ago, which is insane and still insane. It's been a fun ride. But I don't think I could be in the position where I am right now or sitting, here with you on this thing, if I didn't spend the time to build my brand. But that's the long and short of it.
Dude, that is long. And like I said, you have built a mortgage company. You built an incredible brand. You continue to do it. You find the time to do it. So many people, it would be so easy to be like, hey, I'm just focused on my mortgage company. Like, I'm not going to worry about building a brand anymore. But you've continued to put out incredibly valuable content, which we're going to get into that here in just a second. But you have found a time. How have you been able to balance it all? Because like I said, it would be easy for people to make an excuse and say, well, I'm just going to go focus on building a mortgage company. I don't have time to build a brand. So that's all going to come down the road. You've been able to juggle that. How have you been able to kind of find that that balance within your life?
That's been the hardest part, honestly. And I've really only started to figure it out over the last few months, to be completely honest with you. For the last few years, it's literally just been like me 100% in everything. Like, I mean, obviously, we have an amazing team here at Amnet who, we have people who are building the company and doing amazing. So I can just focus mainly on the marketing side of things. And of course, recruiting LOs to come be a part of what we're doing. But for the personal brand stuff, for as long as I can remember, up until the last maybe 3 or 4 months, it's been 100% me. Like sitting in front of a camera like I am right now, shooting videos, editing, scripting, posting, all of it's been me. And it's exhausting. So I actually reached a point where I realized I couldn't be 100% in all of it all the time. It was just taking a toll, mentally, creatively, right? As a creative, and I'm sure you get this too, just being in the weeds of it so much, you get burnout. So I finally decided to take the step and outsource my editing. I have an amazing editor who handles all that. So I'm free to just sit down in front of a camera, shoot videos, send him the files. We've gotten to a nice little groove where, he really understands kind of what I'm trying to create.
Sure.
We go back and forth between a few revisions here and there, but for the most part, I can send him 5, 6, 10 videos, short form pieces of content. And I just tell him like, this is what the topic's about. Here's the general outline. Go have fun with it. He sends it back to me, the next day or 2 days later. It's perfect. It's
Oh,
been such a relief because I think the editing part was where I was just spending way too much time. I was a perfectionist. I couldn't get out of my own way, right? And I
mm,
think that was something that I really unlocked over the last few months is realizing that it's never going to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. I've always said it. I never actually did it until recently. But it's helped so much because now I can just focus on creating and posting and growing the brand instead of trying to tweak every single little video to make sure that the color correction is perfect. Like that doesn't matter.
Dude, there was so many things you just said right there. Like I could go back and we could spend the next hour just on a few things. Like done is better than perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, you have what Caton said right there is for so many of you that are starting this journey of building a brand and content creation. That is so much more important than you could ever understand. The other thing that I think is just again another testament of how amazing you are is that you have the humility. Like, you're humble enough to say like, dude, it sucked. I like figuring it out is hard, and
Mm.
you knew that you hit like there was a certain point where you're like, you know what? Because as like you and I are similar in the way, like when we're creating content, we almost want it to be perfect. We have like our OCD, like, no, it's got to be like it's
Mhm.
me on the camera, it's me the one messaging, so it's got to be up to a certain standard. But like the editing, there's just so much that goes into it. Finding somebody that we can entrust, like that takes so much off of our plate. And for many of you, the fact that Keaton is willing to share, and I've shared with you in the past, going through that struggle in the beginning is worth it. Like going through, like knowing what really is put into creating content and building a brand is worth it for all of you. You will get to a point where Keaton and you and I both have editors now, and it's amazing to have a team that helps us out with that. But for all of you just starting, it's okay. Like you're going to have to go through this journey, and you're going to struggle a little bit. But so I want to talk about something that you kind of alluded to, how so many people when they're starting this, they struggle to find content. And I watch your Instagram, I watch your TikTok, and I'm watching you, and like you find such engaging ways to get to the consumer, to educate them. When did you really you mentioned earlier finding your voice? How did you find
Mm.
that? Was it I know Gary Vee's been a huge influence for you, but have there been other pieces of content? Have there been other things that you're like, this is me? How did you find that voice for you?
It's a lot of trial and error. The thing that's been at the top of my mind when I think about content lately is it's kind of like putting in reps, right?
Hmm,
Let's go into the gym, right? Like you're not gonna just walk into the gym and deadlift 225 like on your first try if you've never been there. Like you have to work your way up to it. So it's putting in the reps, but also getting feedback from like other professionals, from people around you. Like I'm gonna be honest, like one of the biggest like influences in helping me find my own voice, it was my wife because she was there from day one. I literally met her the day that I got my mortgage license. So she's been with me through my entire mortgage journey. But I really think like gravitating towards the people who are closest to you, who know you,
hmm,
and getting their feedback, right? Because they know you, they know how you talk, they're already friends with you or close to you. So when you put out a piece of content and it's not congruent with that, they know that immediately. And if it's not congruent with people who've known you for a long period of time, how are you going to have that same congruency with a stranger on the internet who's seeing you for the first time?
hmm.
Right. So it's difficult because we want to be, from day one, the fake it till you make it. And you kind of try to figure it out, right? You'll play around with how you deliver things and what the image looks like and things like that.
Sure.
But over time, you start to realize, you kind of fall into like, okay, this is what I like being. And it's not hard to be this kind of way on camera. And I think that's the
Yeah.
hardest thing for a lot of people is trying to be on camera or even be a brand in general, whether it's on video or in person or on stage. But there's that congruency, right?
Hmm.
Who you are on here should be the same more or less as who you are in person. You see that with Gary Vee all the time.
All
I got
day.
to meet Gary Vee. I'm sure you've met him a bunch too. Like the way he is in person is exactly how he is on camera. There's that congruency there. So that really helped, really getting that feedback from those who's closest to me. And she's like brutally honest too. She'll be like, that was super cringy. Like, don't do that again.
I love you, but that was bad.
Yeah, like especially with like TikTok, right? Like TikTok, it was like, when it first came out, it was literally just a dancing app. So, and it's still like, trendy, the different trends. So it's kind of like trying to figure out like what the voice is in there.
Sure.
Um, and also it's cool to have like an outsider perspective too, right? Because I think as like, you're a mortgage pro, I am too, like we kind of get caught in the weeds of like the technical stuff, right? But then when you really think about like, it's hard because we've been doing this for so long. like when you think about like how to communicate that to somebody who has no idea what we're talking about, like avoiding the words, keeping it simple. That's probably one of the biggest unlocks that I've had lately is really simplifying it. Like take the concept, simplify it again, and then simplify it even further,
Yep.
and just try to get it down into a morsel. And I think short form contents help that because now like I don't have the 14 minutes that I have on YouTube to
Mm.
give all this context. I've got like 20 seconds of someone's attention span. So I got to really, really condense that down into a way that makes sense and is accessible. Like I'm not trying to gatekeep this information.
No. Dude, I want to unpack that more, but I want to go back to your wife. I know she's been a huge support for you. Like having that, I think is critical. I know my wife has always been
Huge.
supportive as well, but it not having that factor. I've actually had people message us like, well, hey, I don't have a support piece. I would tell everybody find that support. I think that is
Find it.
critical when you
Mhm.
first start, whether it's a colleague, a friend. Sometimes it's not a spouse, which is that's totally okay. I
Right.
know some people who have been their spouse is like, hey, like my wife, everybody knows this. My wife is not on social media. Like
Mhm.
she hates social media, and
Right.
my life revolves around social media. But that doesn't mean she doesn't support me. So find that
Yeah.
support piece. I think that's brilliant. But I want to talk about because I have your YouTube up here.
Mm.
Something that you and I talked about in the past is like long form content versus short form content. And
Mhm.
again, you have thrived. You've done, you've got, almost 2,000 followers on YouTube, which some people are like, well, that's not, but you're doing amazing on YouTube. You considered or compared to most mortgage pros, you kill it. When you started doing this long form, like you said, that was kind of like a 14-minute.
Mhm.
When you started switching over to this short form, like you said, the 20 to 30 to 15-second content, like how did you find your groove there? How did you go from creating that long form to short form? I know you mentioned like reps, but do you enjoy the short form better? Do you enjoy the long form more?
I actually I kind of enjoy the short form better,
Yeah.
honestly, because number one, like I said, like the most daunting part of creating is the creating
Yeah.
process, right? Like creating a 14-minute video, like that's like an hour of footage sometimes
Oh,
between
big
all the
time.
weird takes and stuff like that, and the time it takes to upload it and do all that other stuff. Like short form content's a little bit more fun because it's almost a challenge where
Mm.
you have to condense like this big scary kind of concept into like 20 seconds. And like I was just having this talk the other day, like, early internet, you used to be like, get them within like the first 30 seconds, right? Get them
Right.
in the first 30 seconds of good. And then it was like 15. Then it was like 10. And now it's like 3. So like really thinking about that and challenging myself to try to be engaging, try to be valuable, and actually still make sense and communicate what I'm trying to communicate in that like very short period of time
Yep.
has been a lot of fun. Like I'm still doing my long form content, but I'm having so much more fun, I think,
Hmm.
doing the short form because I can put out more with less effort and reach so many more people too.
Dude, this means so much. I say this a lot on the show. Go rewind those last 30 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. You said something right there, Caton, where when it comes to creating content in particular, you have to have fun with it. If you're not having like
Mhm.
you mentioned burnout earlier, like if you're not having fun and enjoying this process, it is a process. It's not easy, but if you're not having fun with it, this becomes a task. It becomes a job, and it just like you will burn out way quicker than anything. And you'll be one of those people who curse social media. You'll be like, no, that shit doesn't work. Like this sucks. Like those guys are full of crap. There's no way they're actually doing this, but you
Right.
got to have fun. You got to enjoy. I enjoy short form content too. I enjoy the little like the quick hitting stuff way more. I'll see an idea on TikTok or I'll see something on Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, and I'm like, oh, that's like great. I'm gonna go make that my own. I'm gonna have fun with that, and I'm gonna, like you said, I'm gonna make this valuable. I'm gonna make it, kind of me, and I'm just gonna
Mhm.
run with it.
Right.
So
And what's cool is like the short form can like sorry to interrupt you there, but like the
no,
short
yeah,
form can bounce off and into the long form, right? Like the
bingo.
short form is basically like your hook that you usually would like have to craft on your long form piece of content. Like you'd have to craft your hook and get that all done. Like now you can put out a short form piece of content as like your preliminary hook, and then you can let the audience go and find your long form content or invite them to go see that
All day.
to give them that additional context, right? Because there is only so much I can put into 20 seconds. Like I can't give you every little FHA guideline in that 20 seconds, but I can be like, oh, hey, you can buy an FHA loan with 3.5% down. You need this much credit. And then like, that's like your bit. And if you want to know more, go check out my, 14-minute video on YouTube on exactly how to use an FHA loan to buy a multifamily. Like there's so much like you can cross collateralize that content between each other. And I think it's so cool.
No, it is so cool. And again, guys, if you don't follow Katon, you got to go follow his different shows. So we'll drop all his links in here, but you got to follow him because I always tell people too, like find people who are doing it well, you being one of those people, and like watch what they're doing. And again, you mentioned this earlier on. don't try to be Caton, be you, but find good examples who are producing great content. There are some examples of people who are like, yeah, this is cringeworthy. Like you said, don't go down that road. Find you, be you, and then find other examples. I want to talk about just a second for again your YouTube channel, because you are the Millennial Mortgage Pro, but you're also still Kate. Like, so how do you mingle the two brands? How you mentioned something so critically important. Like all of us, people do business with us. People do business with Caton. The Millennial Mortgage Pro, is that more of just like kind of a hook for people? How do you differentiate the two? Are they one and the same? Because this is all about brands. Because some people are always about like, well, I need to have like this, this pseudo name. How does that work for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, you're to blame for the name, or to thank, because I think we were on another one of these before, and you kind of brought that up, and I just like took it and ran with it. I was like, sick, that sounds cool, why not? But lately I've really just pivoted, just kind of like having it around my name, because like that's who I am. Like my name's my name, and which is funny because like I struggled like in my earlier years with my name, because like kind of name's Caton, like why didn't like a normal name? But like I was like I'm like one of the only Catons on the planet. I'm gonna just run with it. Like and that's what's beautiful about brand, right? Is I think you're right. People overthink it a little too much, where they're like, oh, I want to create this like logo. I want to be like, then the mortgage ninja or something. That's cute, but at the end of the day, like people are doing business with you as an individual.
That's it.
Taglines are cute and brand names are cute, but like people still do business with people. And if you're spending too much time overthinking the name, you're gonna lose the whole point of having a brand, which is the impact that you have on the end user. And I think that's a million times more important than whatever name that you can come up with.
Dude, you literally just gave me goosebumps saying that. And like, that's what it is. Like so many people miss it. So many, I was literally at an event recently, and this kid came up to me and he's trying to be the bow tie mortgage guy was his brand. And I'm like, whoa, like that's a lot, dude. And like, he was always wearing a bow tie, like in his videos, and he showed me some of it. And I'm like, dude, that's an ultra ego that you have to stay with. Like, do you really want to be the bow tie mortgage guy forever? I'm like, that's a lot to say. And again, I've talked to Sean Cahill for like the mortgage nerd. I've talked to Annie, who like, there's a few of them who've done like okay with it, but that is an ultra ego you have to stay with. I like the Millennial Mortgage Pro. Number one, you're a millennial. Like that's funny. Now I remember the conversation that you and I were having about that, but at the end of the day, it is Caton. Like people know us as people still like people refer to me as Shred, but it's still Josh. Like it's still that brand is the exact same thing. And the fact that you found that, and the fact that you, again, talking about how using your name, using that, if you spend too much time and effort trying to, like you said, a slogan or a cute catchphrase, sure, it's cute, but at the end of the day, people do business with Caton. People do business with Josh. That's what they want. That's the person they trust ultimately.
Exactly that.
I think this is something that, again, this is so critical. What we've been talking about here is just so impactful for whether you're new to the industry, whether you're just getting started, whether you're a seasoned pro. This type of conversation can guide and help anybody in this. So what I want to do is we start wrapping things up. I want to be respectful of your time. I'm grateful that you came on. But so what would you tell, what if you could give somebody one or two pieces of advice? They're just starting out on this journey. They know they've seen your videos. They've ingested other people's content. Maybe they've seen Gary Vee recently. Where do they start that journey? How do they begin that journey? Especially if they're like a mortgage professional or real estate professional, where does somebody start?
I think you start to figure out, because it's very much like when you're trying to figure out like your brand and everything like that. It's very, it is to an extent an ego play, right? Like you kind of have to have a little bit of an ego to kind of go and want to put yourself out there.
I agree.
Right? Like it just is what it is, right? And I'm not gonna be shy about that any day of the week. But I think you have to take a step back from yourself initially and think about the kind of impact that you want to have on the person on the other side, right? When I shoot my video content, I always kind of try to think about, I'm talking to a person, right? I'm just talking to a person on the other side of this camera, and I create that person. What does that person look like? What are their interests? What are they into? And how do I want them to view me, right? And what kind of form of that is going to be the most value to them at the end of the day? And putting that first, putting that end user, putting that client, putting that borrower, whatever you want to call it, putting that first in the, what kind of impact do I want to have on this person's life as it pertains to real estate? Like I've condensed, my brand story down to like a few things in the past. My intro on YouTube has been like, helping you navigate the mortgage process and buy your first home. And other times it's, making mortgage simple, or, helping you build wealth through real estate, like all those different kinds of things, those messagings, right? That this is what I am doing to help you do this, right? And this is
Mhm.
why you should pay attention to me. It should be where you start, because everything else will just come on its own. Like, I didn't come up with the Millennial Mortgage Pro. Like, that's something that you gave to me essentially based on what you were feeling about my content and what I was putting out there. You called me that and I ran with it. I was like, that's cool. That's what this other awesome person, thinks about me and my content. I'm going to run with that. Sometimes the brand will reveal itself to you without you
Mm.
really having to try. I think if more people focus on the impact that they're trying to have on the audience that they're trying to reach, they'll find the brand within itself. But don't be afraid to be yourself within that context too.
Dude, that is so deep. And I think when we first start, when we understand we want to start creating a brand, or we want to start creating content, like to be, at the end of the day, we do this, like you said, from an ego play, number one, but we're also trying to create business.
Hmm.
But sometimes that can be like our biggest hindrance, is we're trying to create business instead of creating relationships. You said something that is so critical to all this. The person that you're talking to on the other end of the camera is a person. It's another
Hmm.
human being. You're trying to establish a relationship. You're trying to build that. Sometimes we forget that most of these people listening right out the gate, as you mentioned earlier, they're our friends, they're our family, they're people, like, they're the people that already know us. We don't need to sell them. We're just trying to, again, to educate, to entertain, to continue to establish a better relationship. It's not about trying to establish new business. Sometimes I think we get that so wrong in the very beginning, that people are like, well, this is just another lead funnel. I'm just creating content for a lead funnel. If you look at it in that way, it goes back to what you and I both mentioned on this multiple times now. It becomes a job. It just becomes one more source of, like, people are just a
Stress.
trend. Yeah, it's stress and
Yeah.
it's a transaction, and it shouldn't be looked at that way. So, Caton, that is absolutely brilliant. This is, again, guys, this is why you have to go follow him. You have to engage with his content, because he will give you, like, he shares with these things. And even me, like, this makes me continue to think, I'm like, wow, like, I got to be more impactful. I got to be more, thoughtful with the content that I'm putting out. Whose life am I impacting on the other end of this? So this has been absolutely brilliant. I cannot thank you enough for coming out and hanging out with me, sharing everything that you have. There's been so many little pieces. There's a bunch of snippets I'm going to send you, because this was a damn good conversation. But as everybody knows, and as a surprise to Caton, he doesn't know this, we end every single episode with pod decks. If you're not sponsored by pod decks, but we love using pod decks to ask three random questions
Ooh,
to every
I see.
person we have on the show. So I'm going to withdraw 3 of these random questions. I'm just going to say some of these are pretty freaking random, so I'm just throwing that out there.
No, I'm excited. Let's do it.
So we're going to get to know Caton a little bit better. So here we go. Question number 1, ladies and gentlemen. If you were stranded on a desert island and you could choose one person to keep you company, who would it be?
Absolutely, my wife. We spend so much time. Like, it's hilarious. Like, no, absolutely.
I was going to say that was pretty easy one, being that, we talked about your wife earlier. I'm the same. It'd be my wife. My kids are actually here at the office today. I love hanging out with my kids, but it'd probably be my wife, like, just a little more adult level. Like, it just makes more sense. But this is, I'm interested. What about your animal? Would you have your dog with you if you had to bring an animal?
Oh, 100% my dog too. For sure, my dog. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hanging out with your dog, hanging out with the wife,
Sleeping
chilling.
somewhere around here.
And say she's hanging out
that'd be
somewhere.
great.
I love
Right,
that.
I'll just stay at all day. It's the same as being on a desert island. Let's do
Exactly.
it.
There you go. I love it. All right. What is the weirdest tradition your family has?
Ooh, weirdest tradition. I don't know if it's a weird tradition. It's kind of one that we got, like, spoiled with, I guess, growing up. Is we would go to Disneyland every Christmas. We still try to do that, not as much lately, but that's one tradition that I remember very specifically growing up.
Do you still do it to this day? Like, do you hang out with good?
Not as much, obviously, now that we're older.
Sure.
I've tried to make it a point to make a few more trips with them. So
Mm.
it's like a every other year kind of thing. But no, I mean, there's something magical about Disneyland and at Christmas time with your family. It's just, there's something about it.
Dude, that's cool. One thing that I would say is weird for our tradition, for our family, is of course we do the traditional, like, Thanksgiving feast, but we always do pizza too. Like, my
That's
sister
cool.
started it, but, like, pizza, like, is like a huge, like, different kinds of pizzas, like new pizzas.
Pineapples on pizza? This is a question for you.
Hell yeah, dude. I love
Thank
pineapple.
you. I knew you were my people. I knew it. I knew
all
it.
damn day, dude. I love pineapple.
I knew
on
you were
pizza.
my people.
So, see, there we go.
Let's
That's what
go.
There we go. Okay, last question, ladies and gentlemen. Well, this is interesting. What would you do if you were invisible for a day?
If I was invisible for a day, wow. Ooh, this is a good one. I don't know.
I say that's a tricky one.
I've never really considered crime as like a thing. So
Nah, I was just say, I
no,
don't. I
it's
guess say
kind
some
of
people could
crime's
take it
kind of,
that way.
I don't know. Invisible for a day?
Yeah.
Jeez.
You know what would be fun actually going along with your
I'd probably just
Disneyland
like
one?
walk around. I'd probably just like walk around naked because it'd just be funny. Like clothes are a burden. Like having to pick an outfit every day. Like no one
Oh,
would see
dude.
anyway, so it's not like I'm going to jail for that. Like it would just be more comfortable.
Dude, I could just strut and just be like, "Hey, I feel free. It's beautiful outside. The sun is
I wouldn't do
shining."
anything weird, right? I would just be
No,
like,
I'm
here we
like,
are.
I'm feeling the wind beneath my legs. I'm feeling good for the day.
I
I
would have a
actually like.
naked day. I would have a naked day.
I love that. I had never thought about that. I like that. Well, something I would probably do, and I don't know if you could get away with it, but I would like sneak into like Disney World or something. I don't know if that's a crime, but like, yeah, so no lines, just hang out,
Oh, that'd be cool
like
too.
just be like,
I don't know,
you could
like how
do.
you would like get into a ride though, because they like try to fill every seat. Like then
Yeah,
there
that's a
would
good
be
point.
somebody sitting on top of me, but they wouldn't know, and it would be
Yeah,
weird because
especially if you're naked at that time. Then
yeah,
it'll
no,
be
I was gonna
really
say like
weird.
I was like, oh wait, am I going to Disneyland and naked at the same time? I don't know.
Now, now we're starting to tangent here. We're gonna bring ourselves back on, but I like this. Caton, it's been so much fun hanging out with you, man. You are absolutely brilliant. Thanks for everything that you have shared. Thanks for everything you do for the industry, for continually putting out educational content for your consumers. Because again, I know so many other people value it. They see you as an influencer. They see you as the leader that you are. So you're incredibly brilliant, and I really appreciate your friendship and all you do, brother. Really do.
Absolutely, you as well, man.
Guys, with that, as always, we appreciate you. We love you. And make sure you tune in every single week for another episode of Brand+Shred, where we bring somebody as brilliant, not quite as brilliant. I mean, you can't compete with Caton.
Amazing people. Stop it.
He's amazing people. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. Now it's time for all of you to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day. See you guys.
Let's do it.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much again for joining us on another episode of Brand+Shred. I hope you got as much value out of this episode as I did. And if you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button below so you don't miss a single weekly episode with the incredible guests that we're bringing you to help you build your personal brand. Click that subscribe button, share, and even leave a comment. We appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you next week on another episode of Brand+Shred.